China is attacking America with balloons. A lot of them. 99 of them. All of them red. Shelley, what do we do about this red menace?
Well, I see the podcast is going off to a good start.
Yeah, this just broke. Unfortunately, it happened right before we filmed our weekly headlines episode. But
I mean, it actually they actually said the U.S. officials will release a statement Thursday night. So well after we recorded headlines for this week.
Yeah. But yeah, China sent a spy balloon. You said it was a big balloon, right?
The balloon is apparently 3 bus lengths in size.
Like the short bus or the long bus?
I think a regular bus.
A regular bus.
So it makes you think, I guess now I'm picturing the Hindenburg of spy balloons. You know what I mean? Because I guess I always thought of spy balloons as being smaller, which I guess it doesn't necessarily make sense if they have to hold enough air or whatever they're filled with.
I guess you just think of spy cameras, like things that you could put in a little button, buttonhole, buttonhole camera.
Should I explain why you're doing this? Chris is making fun of me because I was reading a Guardian article about the spy balloon and it talked about buttonhole cameras, but my brain went butthole camera. So I was very confused for a minute until I realized what had happened.
Did you know about the Soviet experiments into creating butthole cameras?
No, please tell us about the Soviet experiments. Actually, it sounds like something that would happen, right?
Oh, yeah.
This whole thing, actually, the spy balloon thing, doesn't it sound like some kind of weird Cold War throwback?
Well, what I found surprising was that this is not a one-off thing. This happens fairly regularly, actually. Just for some reason, the U.S. government is now making a big deal out of it this time.
Well, I mean, firstly, I want to say that China should have just painted their balloon blue.
So it'd be hard to spot.
Noticed.
Maybe
the problem I think is that the Chinese regime does a lot of spying, right? So they're spying on our WeChat communications, potentially TikTok, definitely huge amounts of corporate espionage, but all these things are hidden, right? And sometimes it's hard to show me a picture.
Subtle
it didn't
and sophisticated.
Yeah.
Not usually a gigantic balloon.
Right. And so there's something psychological about the presence of a gigantic balloon that makes people suddenly feel the threat, even though it's actually substantially less of a threat than many of the other things the Chinese regime is doing in terms of their warfare with the
I
US.
would say TikTok is probably a bigger threat than a surveillance balloon.
Collecting data from millions of people, all these young people, they're collecting
the
their
minds.
face. Yeah.
Of China's youth.
Of China's youth?
America's youth. Turning them into Chinese youth with the red terror.
Yeah. I mean, I would say they're unclean, sort of dirty.
Thank
Matt, I was looking to you for support, but instead you decided to join in the trolling.
Matt's my bro.
Yes. I see this happening.
I have never not wanted you to say dirty reds.
I know. I think that also if people haven't been watching many of our podcasts, people don't know what you guys have been trying, or Chris specifically has been trying to get me to say for many, many episodes.
Which is what, Shelley?
Yeah, what have been trying to say?
Well, Matt already said it, so I don't need to.
What did he say?
Well, that is the most transparent way to try to get me to say it, and I don't know why you think that's going to succeed.
I don't know, Miss Butthole Camera.
We have to be so much more conniving than Shelley, and I'm just not sure I'm up to it.
That's because I'm Chinese.
Whoa, I'm not comfortable with that.
Yeah, Shelley, this is deeply problematic.
That goes too far. That's too far.
Kind of worse, I think, than saying dirty reds. I mean, that's cute. What you just did was racism.
I don't think so, because it's like how you can make jokes about your own ethnicity, but other people can't do those things.
I can make jokes about AI programs?
Yeah, you can make as many Matrix jokes as you want. You're good.
That's my privilege. Hey, those surveillance cameras.
Yeah, but actually what interests me about what you were saying, Matt, about how it seems to be a very visible threat is the DoD has come out and said that in many ways it doesn't actually give the CCP more intelligence than their satellites, which are already circling all around the world already do.
But somehow the satellites being in low Earth orbit don't count as U.S. airspace.
Well, also,
I'm not sure exactly what the elevation.
You can't see the satellite, right? Like you can see satellites at night kind of like flying
It's
over.
not a
but
giant, slow-moving balloon.
that's like hovering. Although this balloon is, I think one of the reasons they talked about it is because it was spending a lot of time hovering over Montana, where there is a Air Force base that houses nuclear silos.
Yeah. So this was a slightly different modus operandi for this balloon, even though it is fairly common, apparently, for Chinese spy balloons to be caught in the U.S. I love the Chinese response, though. They were like, "Don't worry, it's just a weather balloon."
Well, what they actually said it is Chinese. It is a civilian airship that is used mainly for meteorological research, and we are very sorry that it blew into U.S. territory. Yeah.
Yeah, as sometimes weather balloons just do.
Yeah, but that also seems like such a non-denial denial, because isn't the go-to thing
Like
about spy balloons that they're weather balloons?
Well, also UFOs are weather balloons, right?
Yeah.
So now it's a whole other conspiracy theory. But the thing is, so that the U.S. had considered, like some people had considered, should we shoot it down?
Actually, I think that the Wall Street Journal reported that Biden had actually given the order to shoot it down, and then the Pentagon was like having a hard time finding any place to shoot it down that there wouldn't
Potentially cause like civilian problems.
Yeah, because
Good on Biden. Hey, Biden agreed with Trump then, because Trump
Did he say
tweet
something about it?
He truthed
Okay.
on Truth Social, shoot it down.
Oh, okay. That's all it said.
I have it somewhere. It was not. I mean, Trump is not necessarily like, shoot down the balloon.
Okay.
I assume he was talking about this balloon.
Not just
just like balloons at like a children's party.
Yeah, maybe he was having a bad time on a 5-year-old's birthday.
I mean, but Biden's the cool guy who's like, yeah, I could totally shoot it down, but I don't need to.
Well, so there were a bunch of theories about this, because the reason the Pentagon gave was that they couldn't guarantee that there wouldn't be civilian casualties of some kind because of like the debris raining down. But then some people think that, hey, maybe we're getting something off of this spy balloon. You know what I mean? Like, it's possible we are able to see what they're doing. Although I suppose if you shot it down and were able to collect the pieces, then you could see more clearly what was happening.
Or the U.S. government is covering for the Chinese government, covering
For the aliens?
for the aliens. Yeah. You followed me, Shelley.
Yes, I did. I felt like that energy where you wanted to say something about the aliens as soon as Matt had said something about UFOs, but you were holding back until the right moment.
Just building.
But
Wow, we've gotten to know each other so well over a decade.
well, yeah, when you've like eaten tear gas together, that's a real bonding experience.
Tear gas and youtiao.
Yeah. What a combination. Which is worse for your health? Fried dough sticks or tear gas?
I think it's all about the prolonged exposure.
True.
So prolonged exposure to youtiao is
That's definitely not
pretty
good for
dangerous.
you. Yeah. Yeah, that's not good.
Someone needs to make the youtiao diets.
It's before we had youtiao before we discovered other options for Hong Kong breakfast.
Yeah, like the deep fried pork.
I was going to say, not that the other options were that healthy.
We'd go to that.
We shouldn't have been eating roast pork for
Breakfast every day.
Yeah.
No, because some days we had the buns.
Filled with roast pork.
That's true. They were filled with roast pork.
I was like, find me one vegetable bun, please.
Yeah, there was apparently Hong Kong is one of the most meat-eating places in the world, and they tend to live very long too. So to that little disconnected anecdotal evidence, that's proof positive that you should eat as much meat as possible, and that the alien sent the balloon over America.
I mean, I think if the CCP was able to blame it on aliens, they probably would have.
That reminds me, a long time ago, there was like something about some Global Times article or something reporting that like the U.S. government was in cahoots with aliens.
Okay, I'm vaguely remembering this.
Yeah. All right. Talk. Let me see if I can find that.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing about the Global Times. Obviously it is our favorite Chinese state-run media, but
It's not because of their accuracy.
that's exactly.
Well, I mean,
Wait, but isn't the thing that the Chinese state-run media always accused other countries of doing what the CCP is actually doing?
Yes, often. So are you saying this means that this is further proof that the CCP is working with aliens?
It is suggestive.
It suggests. Yeah. I mean, they do that all the time with like, oh, these revolutions must be, or these protests must be infiltrated by Western forces trying to foment a color revolution in China,
Right. But it's actually the CCP fomenting its own. Right. I mean, like we later learned that the 2012 anti-Japanese protests were encouraged by the CCP, right? Because it had to do with their, trade war and the disputed islands and a whole political reason. So it was like the CCP allowed and encouraged people to protest against Japanese goods inside China when normally protests aren't allowed, right? But obviously the CCP is behind it. So yeah, I can get why they.
Yeah, you suspect everybody of doing what you're doing. I think this was an anecdote about after the collapse of the Soviet Union, when like U.S. and Russian nuclear scientists were going over and seeing each other's nuclear like weapons because they were de-arming the Soviet Union, right, and kind of like dismantling some of the things. And then the American scientists were shocked at how much the Soviet Union had been doing that they hadn't disclosed, and the Soviet Union was shocked that the U.S. they had thought that the U.S. was doing a lot more stuff that they weren't disclosing, but the U.S. wasn't. Do you know what I mean? So like the Soviet scientists were suspecting the U.S. of doing essentially what they were doing, which is like violating all the treaties and secretly building way more nuclear whatever than they
injecting
said they
steroids
were.
into boxers to fight American boxers.
Is
I mean,
this a Rocky
think about Zangief. Like that guy is definitely on steroids.
I wasn't going there, but yeah, I like
Who?
Street Fighter.
Street Fighter 2.
Okay.
Zangief, which is I would say the hardest character to play though. Because all his moves were like a lot of weird, like joystick things,
Really?
Yeah, I had a really hard time with that character.
Interesting.
Yeah.